Hey guys, my name is Marvin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Phala Network. This is my first crypto event in the last 18 months. So thank you Archetype and Mona to bring me back, it's not easy. So just a little bit background here. This is my seventh year in Phala, and I'm a really bad pitcher most of the times. That's the reason why we only raised $1 million back to 2020. After that, basically I just live my own, So today I'm going to share a little bit on not the pivot, but more like what we are doing in the last 2 years. And people know us, when talking about TEE, like TEE this, TEE that, and but there's many nuance progression in there. So I'm going to share a little bit more. Originally, Phala was built up to help people verify and run off-chain security with privacy. So back to 7 years ago, me and my co-founder, our idea is really simple. Hey, the app, decentralized application won't be just fully on-chain, right? You need front-end, you need back-end, you need APIs. So how to protect these anti-censorship or like just in private? So one of the technology we think have a PMF in there is TEE. So we begin to take a look at SGX, and it sucks. So we didn't make a lot of progress since then. But things begin to change 3 years ago, and that's when GPT 3.5, pom-pom, and begin to have some adoption. So after that, we begin to scale ourselves into more AI workloads. Now, but as you can see, 50% of our clients and workloads running in Phala infrastructure is coming from Web 2 or Web 2 AI, and half of them in still Web 3 native, which we are pretty happy. I'm a Web 3 native person, I'm really happy to see that. Over 70% of our TE deployments are now agents, instead of like traditional applications or just traditional backends, which is also very cool. So what happened in the last 2 years is what you can see here. So AI workloads used to be just client, front end, and then API calls directly to the model public endpoint, and that's it. It's a chatbot. Right now, on the left side is my screenshot from my personal Hermes workspace in our team, and every day I see a lot of fucking long logs in there that AI is trying to explore with tons of tools, which some of them are really risky and dangerous, and then thinking about how to use these tools and then approve it by itself because we give it a dangerous solo mode. So agent is shifting from just a chatbot into a lot of tool calls and authority-based actions. And that's a very, very big change. So what it means is that to protect the privacy or prove what's happening under the trails is getting harder. It's not just the front end, the back end, and then the model stuff. It's becoming a pain in the ass for most of people. And this is how we adopt our solution in the recent couple of years. First, we need to give enough context or give a very safe context collection solutions, so that when AI is trying to, for example, like discovering tools from their own environment, whoever care about privacy, they can see the audit trails. And of course, credentials too. Like my agent I can show you later. My agent have 600 API keys for maybe from maybe 10 ENV files, and that's a nightmare. And I have to share some of them to my colleagues because when they work, they need those credentials. So how to make this shareable reusable credentials be secured in a autonomous way. That's the challenge of cross actions. I'm going to be quick on that. So 2 years ago, when we begin to serve more and more Web2 developers and teams, one surprising thing we find out is sometimes I think like Web3 people doing much better on security and privacy solutions. I don't think Web2, we talk with OpenAI, we talk with Anthropic, we talk with a lot of like engineers in San Francisco, the YC startups. I don't think like Web3 sucks in there. I think we are doing good. And for instance, the traditional Web2 solution already have mutual concepts like, zero trust, audit logs, policy engines, data clean rooms. These are the SaaS-based solution for enterprises which already have a mass adoption. Yes, they are doing good in there on the experience side, but for the security benchmark, I barely see any kind of Web2 solutions can compare with not just Phala, but also maybe the other security teams in Web3. I think Web3 do have better knowledge base in here, and so what we are doing is that we are borrowing the advantage from the good Web2 developer-faced or enterprise-faced experience, and the benchmark, we think Web3 is doing greater. For example, a typical case is key management service. A lot of people ask me questions like, hey, you're doing TEE, GCP have TEE, AWS have a Natural Enclave, so why do I need you guys, right? The answer is, yes, you can use AWS Natural, but your customer, if your customer don't want to leak their data to you, then in the meanwhile, you need to back up their data, just in case a single server down. Then how you can do that? There's no way out unless you put the key management service authorized in their own hands, or just management by Gartner, by on-chain Gartner, or driven by smart contract. So I think in many ways, we can provide a better benchmark for security, especially for these AI applications in Web2, even in Web2. So the current best answer for that, just take advantage from a good Web2 enterprise experience and a good Web3 benchmark. Our lesson, which could not be the perfect one, right? There's a lot of better solutions out there, but what our best practice is what we called proof of chain or chain of trust. This is our practice. So it means that a single AI action is under hood is a supply chain management. It contains identity, endpoint, secret release, model routes, model operation in GPU, and two actions. It's kind of a supply chain with many elements, and each link actually needs their own proof object, and each proof object should be traceable forward and backwards. So this matters because AI system compose many of these components. Any single component failed will cause the entire audit trails fails. So it won't be trustworthy anymore, especially to the auditors, security auditors, or the enterprise CSOs. So our approach is to make every link is not just auditable, but also customizable. So for example, you don't use blockchain? Yeah, okay, I'll give you a solution. You can use centralized key management service, but you have to know the trade-off. If you don't use that, right, in some situation, it won't be as secure as on-chain key management. So there's many customization work we done in the last 2 years to make our solution is it's the right fit for whatever clients and the developers need. So this is one of our practice, and I'm going to skip that. Maybe it's a little bit too deep, but what our open source project is called DStack. And in the very beginning, it's co-authored by Andrew Miller. He's a great guy, and he gave us some principle and help us to review the security checks. And after that, we've been working on it for over 18 months. Now I'm happy to say like DStack is not just a Phala thing, it's a Linux Foundation thing. It's one of the most popular TE frameworks in the world. And we are co-designing it with many great partners out there, no matter Web 2 or Web 3. And what it is, it's actually a runtime identity layer, to be honest. So for now, it's just a Docker, but we use Docker as identity for each application, and with that identity, we retrieve a lot of like chain of trust around it. For example, how it runs, how it initiated, how it generates logs here and that. So. And if you're using DStack, it can give you a self-hosted or customized, cloud with full confidential compute enabled, and it's super easy to use. It's totally open source. We also have Phala Cloud. So if you're using DStack and it's very hard to find, TE servers, mostly GPUs, you can use Phala Cloud. Just log in, get an email address, and then we'll grant you some CPU, or if you pay money, then we give you GPUs that support confidential virtual machine. And with CLI, you can let your cloud code or codecs easily setting it up. In my practice, I use a codecs, can launch any application inside any application, anything you find on GitHub. Just give it to me. I can launch it for you in 2 minutes. Of course, with codecs, and so it's a very good to go product for confidential compute. And then we also have Verifiable. It's a model offering for whoever wants to use E2EE based models. We support any open source model right now. You can find it on there. And the E2EE means it's end-to-end encrypted. You can get your proof for the full chain of trust to prove, your request is not being logged or being, collected by any third party, even us, who are providing the computation power. So if you want to, have ask questions, hey, how can I cook math, Mr. White, to OpenAI or just some model like that, you can use Verifiable. And it won't be tracked by FBI. So that's also the reason why some lawyers using it. And at last, Cloudy. Cloudy is not built up for crypto privacy. It's just a cloud hosting platform for Hermes and the open cloud. At least just for myself and our team. And then the friends around us ask to want to experience it, and then they scale a little bit. I'll give very, very, very quick intro. So for DStack, the architecture is designed around one idea. Is that application should be proof itself before it receives authority. And the proof starts from the workload definition, image, and compose hash, and startup arguments, environment configured, and runtime measurement. So with the proof generated by DStack, you can track all of these components just mentioned step by step. So it's not a blockchain, but it's a chain of trust. So and another thing is the KMS, the key management verifier. It can verify the evidence against the policy. So, for example, a lot of people think, okay, if I run things in TE, it's private or safe, right? No, it's not. It's not safe unless you know what you are measuring about. So, for example, some people could, launch an OpenAI or let's say OSS 1G20B model, right, inside GPU TEE, and with the TEE proof, you might say, hey, this is I get the proof, but what is proving? If you don't know the original code, source code, and the compose hash in your measurement in that proof, it proves shit. So it probably leaking your privacy. So the work we done is that we packaging up them together, and with a single proof, you can track back, okay, in the source code, is there anything collect my data secretly, something like that, or anything. So another thing come out. With that's a Web3 standard. Web2 people don't give a fuck about that. That's a Web3 level standard. So the question is how to make it usable. Because if you reach that, security level, sometimes it's really painful. Like developers won't love to use that because they feel like it's adding up my hours. They refuse to use, this level stuff. So how to solve the problem? For example, we design a way that you can upgrade a policy to control the key management services. And in that policy upgradable, when you upgrade some code running inside, Compose, there's also another proof to prove that. So, hey, Marvin built another code yesterday, and it's provable. So that's just some random talk for what we are doing here. And for GPU, I think most people will be interested in that. Since 2023, one of my team's KPI is we want to make sure ourselves, at least, is the frontier, not lab, but frontier team, to understand the performance and the trade-off and the security, the nuances inside GPU TE when it's running the most popular models in the world. So, for example, here is the B300 Blackwell ones. And it performed much, much better than H200 in the inferencing level. And a funny thing is, a lot of people ask question, hey, if I'm running confidential compute with TE, with large language models, what are the trade-offs? The funny thing is, the bigger model you operate, the least trade-off you get. If you run a very small model, like AB model, you get much more overhead from the TE, from using TE. So just run popular models, guys. And the story tell us don't worry about performance limitation on maybe not just the TE, also ZK, also MPC, also FHE. Hardware will evolve very fast. So just pick up the right product to serve on. And we are also targeting on scale our hardware in maybe right now and later on, because I realize most of our revenue eaten by the hardware itself. Unfortunately, if you're doing AI, no matter which part of AI, security AI, financial AI, whatever, your profit will be eat up by a hardware provider. So just try to figure out a way to save your ass out. So that's one of the things. And we also identified one of the pain points in the market, or like a friction for the scalable or private inference right now. There's a lot of good teams out there. Tinfoil, YC batch last year, they're really doing good. Their clients are FBI and some United States garnered. We can't get those deals. They're great people. And Near AI, I don't need to introduce, you guys are very familiar with Near. And Truth, which is a big tensor subnet. And they're the top one subnets in BitTensor. I used to think BitTensor is a scam, something like that. I apologize for that. And they're really, really doing good. And even in the serious AI business, a lot of people talking about them because they have fucking GPUs. So right now, whoever have GPUs capacity, who are the kings? You control the supply, not agent developers. So Truth is the most popular team who are rooted in Web3 but serving in Web2 AI. And there's some others. So what I'm trying to say here is this dashboard is our private inference serving on Open Router, just on Open Router. Open Router probably take 50% of our inference tokens, but it's small. It's only 3 billion every day. It's nothing. But the problem is many people complain, hey, Marvin, while I'm using TE inference, the experience sucks. It performs slow. The first token output is really small, and the context window is very few. The reason, the bottleneck is not TE. Based on our benchmark, the bottleneck is economy. Unfortunately, all of these providers plus us, we are just a small player in the game. So now the inference game is like, the more GPUs you are operating with, the higher performance, overall you can get. So the least GPUs you are operating, you are not going to make money in any day. You are going to lose your money. So my suspicion is besides truth, because they have BitTensor token back. Besides truth, all of us, while we are serving private inferencing, we are losing money. And I want to solve that problem, because if I don't solve that problem, it's a desperate loop. Because you have very limited GPU, so you can only serve very shit token. We call them shit quality tokens from a specific model. So the user experience is really bad, and they blame on cryptographic, security, or TE, and then they abandon the entire segment. So then they turn off to Anthropic or OpenAI. So this is a desperate loop. Not just me, I'm facing like the entire industry. So I need to solve that problem. The way, I'm not going to expand, I already take a lot of time here, but we are solving that problem. And this is a cloudy, interesting trial as our side project. So we, when OpenCloud is getting popular in San Francisco in January, we rapidly think about, okay, can we serve this from Mac into Linux based cloud services? And we begin to try, and the experience sucks. So we begin to remove the friction of why it sucks to run OpenCloud in a cloud environment. And then, of course, after that, Hermes came out, and then we support Hermes. There's no privacy guarantee in there. We are now setting privacy as a key selling point. We are now setting it to crypto user. It's just a cloud hosting platform which have very good experience for OpenCloud and Hermes. And in the beginning, we just rank 30 around in this ranking board. There's a stupid ranking board called Trust ARR. Like there's a many small startup or one-man job. They integrate their Stripe API into this platform. So the potential investors can track the real ARR generated from each small application. And now we are ranking the number 4 among all OpenCloud hosting platform. And it's just $1,000, can't cover my salary still, but some achievement. So yeah, just talking about so many more, just make us TLDR. Like the only problem we are targeting at in the last 7 years is we want to, in the beginning, we want to make a off-chain application trustworthy. And now it's getting even more clear. We want to make AI trustworthy or private preserving. And because the complexity level of what is AI and what is AI workloads. So eventually our core offering, what we are focusing on is to make the environment operate and run and create AI fully auditable. But because as a founder's lesson, we learned a lot of lessons. If you don't make your user experience good, you will lose customers. You don't have PMF. You have to beg money for VC, and eventually it will lead you to another direction. So yeah, this is us. Whatever AI need in trustworthy or privacy, we do it. So yeah, thank you, everyone.